My name is Samantha Williams for anyone who hasn't seen my face on these before or spoken to me. I'm the Director of Client Services with We Need a Vacation. I will introduce the team so you can see all of our lovely faces. Then we'll have the outlook. We'll have Carrie pop in with some Q&A and hopefully be able to open it up for you to answer some of your questions on money.
Ryan's on it.
So let's meet the team. Jeff and Joan are our wonderful owners of We Need a Vacation. I'm sure you're very familiar with those faces. Jim Reese is our Chief Operating Officer. I'm your Director of Client Services, and we have Jenny as the Director of Marketing. Jill Lehman is your Finance Manager. Rebecca DeSantis is our Senior Client Success Specialist. Hopefully you recognize some of these names and certainly some of these faces. We are a local staff working for you, answering the phones. We do not outsource our support. We have Kelsey, Carrie, and Diane, who also work very hard for you on this end. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Jim for the fun part of the presentation.
Good afternoon to everybody, and glad to have everyone join us. We are here post Memorial Day. It's June. A lot of talk about, I guess, the slow start to the summer, unofficial start to the summer weather-wise, but I think just wait, right? Just wait till a week or next week. I think I've seen high temperatures, and with that comes yet another surge of activity on our site. We always see it. We always see high activity starting to boost up as the weather warms up. So we've been busy crunching our numbers, trying to assess how the market is doing overall for the Cape Islands. We're trying to assess how our platform is doing with some of our recent changes to the site earlier this year. And then, of course, how you are doing. We want to make sure that you are getting to maximize the full potential of your rentals. So I know we have a number of people here on the call of different varieties. Some are new to the site, some may be new to renting overall. So maybe that means you have a lot of availability. Others have just a few weeks left to book, or maybe you're looking at the off season for vacancies. And then there's others that are fully booked, right? So congratulations to those that are fully booked. Your job's done. You can go and enjoy your summer. If only it was that easy. Of course, just because you're fully booked, you have guests coming, and that turns a page into managing those rentals, and it's almost the work is just beginning, some might say. So our job here at We Need a Vacation, our job is here to ensure that you can book your home, and we want to drive as much demand and traffic to your homes, and not only do that and help you on the booking side of things, but we're also here to help you manage your rental business. It is a rental business, but we want to help you manage that and manage that successfully year in and year out. So to get started, let's take a look at what we're seeing numbers wise. These are the numbers that we reported in our press release a couple weeks ago. And overall, what we're seeing is these strong booking numbers. So we reported similar numbers, even higher actually back in February. As things level out, they come down a little, but these are still very strong numbers across all three regions of the Cape Islands. So I'm seeing these strong numbers overall, off-season and summer season combined. We're seeing some strong bookings ahead of the 2025 mark. Our inventory remains steady, so it is reflective of we're able to compare the 2026 bookings to last year, and this does have a good outlook for a strong summer season. Again, even if you have availability, we'll talk about some of those open weeks that some of you have. There is optimism that those always can be booked with the right strategies. So let's see. Keep in mind, we always do, when we look at the summer numbers here, we always look at, when we're looking at bookings and our booking numbers, what constitutes a booking on our platform, we look at what weeks have been made available. So a week that has ever been made available on a property listing with a price becomes an available week, and we monitor which one of those end up becoming booked. And so it gives us a reflective state of the market for the Cape and Islands. Uh, there's been a lot, you can see here, these are summer specific bookings, a little bit lower on overall, which is an indication actually that the off season has done pretty well in addition to the strong numbers here for the summer. But there's a lot of discussion in the travel industry. You can't listen to the news without hearing about gas prices. And I was listening to the chamber talk on a podcast, same sort of thing. We talk about gas prices and how that might impact the travel industry. And for us, we're fortunate to be in the Cape and Islands, where it's a pretty resilient area where the gas prices doesn't really impact travel. People travel to the Cape. They know year in and year out, people are coming from drivable distances. So we talk about most of our vacationers come from New England, New York, New Jersey. You can expand a little bit further, and we don't see that sort of impact. We're certainly in an area of uncertainty within the economy, more so last year, but there still is that uncertainty, and with that, we've been able to withstand an impact on the rental industry. If there's that uncertainty in the economy, you might see some impact on not necessarily the visitors coming to the Cape and Islands, but to perhaps they cut back on the spend while they're here on the Cape and Islands. So it helps to support the strong booking numbers. And I always like to quote a quote that we had from a vacationer once who said, it's not a summer until I've had my Cape vacation. Oftentimes the Cape vacation, the Cape and Islands vacation is the highlight of what someone looks forward to. And they don't, despite whatever situation they're in, this is an event that they look forward to and they always want to come back to. And it helps support that we see these strong booking numbers. With that, I'm going to look at some specifics. We look at the 10 core weeks of the summer, starting at the end of June through the end of August. And we see that every week here, the first 6 weeks especially of the summer, have outpaced our weeks from 2025. So we're seeing stronger booking numbers, or stronger, this is showing the percentage. The yellow is the percentage of weeks that are booked as of let's see, maybe 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago. And so we're seeing the first 6 weeks being up anywhere from 1% to 9%. You get to August, second week of August, you start to see, down 1% to 3%, and then definitely these last 2 weeks, which we will touch upon. You are not alone if you have either or both of these weeks available. One thing to note, and people have often asked about the July 4th week, July 4th. July 4th falls on a Saturday this year. I thought actually that might have a bigger impact than it did. It actually is showing stronger this year than last year. Last year's July 4th was on a Friday. So I believe last year the benefit of July 4th on a Friday meant vacationers had a long weekend to begin with. They didn't take a full week's vacation on the Cape as much because they already had a built-in long weekend. They could extend it fairly easily. We also saw a big drop on the week after July 4th last year. So again, both years or both weeks this year are showing stronger numbers. The end of the summer is one that we always focus on, and we see a slower pace to it. I think overall, and I heard it also from the Cape Cod Chamber's numbers on lodging overall, was that there's a lot of reports of bookings earlier, and these bookings in August, they do come later. There are lots of last minute bookings for these August weeks, so they will still be booked, but because of the increased competition of these weeks here versus the other July, early August weeks, you may need to provide some incentives. I know that Carrie may touch upon some of this and how to book any of your open remaining weeks later. So I won't go into too much detail there. Other than I always comment on the weeks here of repeats. Repeats are gold. If you have a renter that booked these last couple weeks last year, that is gold. If you can ever get them to sign up, and what's the state that you're in now, it may be moot, but it's something to think forward to for this year, is think about handling these vacations a little bit different. How much would it mean to you to enter a season knowing that you have a repeat towards the end of August? Is there some sort of incentive you can do to get these people to come back so that you're not trying to fill this over and over again every single year? Takes a lot of effort, probably more so than others. Pricing. So we always look at our pricing numbers. How do pricing set off at the beginning of the year? How confident are you in setting your price? And usually the setting of the prices when we take the snapshot in January is reflective of how you did the previous year. What we started off with, you can see the big bump here, the focus on these 4 years. We had record numbers, record increases during this time. You're well aware of it. You probably took part in this record demand. But what we started to see last year was coming back down to earth, if you will. For the 25 years or so of we've been recording these prices, it's the norm is between 1 to 3% on average. And so that's exactly where we are here. As we saw right before the pandemic, that 1 to 3% increase is the norm. So we knew that the record demand wasn't going to stay, and likewise, the record price increases are not here to stay. This is more reasonable and in line with what we've seen over the years. Now, the uptick may mean this year, may mean that you were confident going into the year based upon the results of last year. It also may have been impacted by the inclusion of our total prices as people manipulated their configuration of pricing with the inclusion of all additional fees in the total price, which I will touch upon. Before noting or talking about the total price change, I do have the breakdown here of prices by region. Again, it shows a similar pattern. Each of these regions had a slightly different breakdown. Obviously, the Vineyard had a much larger uptick during the last few years, but they've also now normalized. They're of particular note because they're at 1%, 1.2% the last couple of years. Fairly steady and very little adjustment versus the 3% here for the Cape. Now, some of the changes that we've made, a big change that we made, this was back in December, was the inclusion of additional fees. For a number of years, the past 3-4 years, we've probably been talking about additional fees. We've made adjustments. We've made it the ability to configure and capture the additional fees, but something was lacking, and that was the inclusion of those fees in the price, and it was hurting the guest experience on our platform. So our goal here was to improve the transparency that you present to your guests as they find your listings. And in doing so, if we could provide better transparency on the price, you could remove some of that frustration, whether it be frustration with our platform, frustration with trying to book a home, frustration with being able to find the right home. Imagine you're trying to find a home with a price, running a search, you find the ideal home, and then all of a sudden you have to tack on 10, 20, 30% more because you weren't aware of the additional fees. So that was the change that was made this year. If you're new to the site, may not have been aware of that the before, but now any additional fees that are required, in this case, this example here, the cleaning fee is now part of the overall total cost. So the search is when a user runs a search, they're not searching and seeing a $4,200 home. They're seeing the week of $4,400 because we're including all additional fees. And what that gives is a better experience for the user. When they run a search, they're able to compare properties knowing that the additional fees are included. They're not comparing homes where some have fees and some don't. Not everybody has a cleaning fee. Not everybody has required fees. But now the search results always show the total cost, and it allows them to compare properties better. The couple of examples of, I would say, what not to do, as it continues to show some issues that you present itself. This is an example just of a listing where the listing itself is not as it loses some transparency. So you have not only do you have a number of additional fees and a number of optional fees, you have the damage waiver plus the security deposit. Perhaps the owner here is meaning to only apply one or the other, but it's not very clear. They have a linen fee that's an estimated cost. Again, not very clear. When the prices and cost is not clear on your listing, you potentially start to lose trust in that vacationer. You potentially may lose that inquiry over that. And so the more you can present your home in a cleaner way, as we did on that previous example, the better. It's what vacationers are looking for. And then one other example would be uncommon fees. Uncommon fees. We do have an ability to add a fee under the other fees. There are scenarios that are valid. You may have seen the cost of heating the pool in the off season or something like that. But in this case, calling out this listing, seeing we have about 90% of our homes have some form of AC, and I guarantee that 90% of the homes don't charge for that AC. It's non-standard. It's uncommon, and it's an issue that some people that vacationers may object to. And not only that, it's a surprise, if you will. So they've done a search. They're comparing homes that are in the, let's say, the $3,300 range. Well, now you're automatically tacking on another 7%. So that is where the impact still comes in. So thankfully, as you look through, here's the fee usage across the site. A lot of you have adjusted and are in great position to make it clear on what the total cost is. And so I don't want to focus too much on the fees. I think overall, all the users on the site have done an excellent job at conforming to standardized fees. And essentially what we're now left with is a platform that is providing the transparent, clear results and costs for a vacationer when they're searching for a home. Let me show a few examples of the impact that this had. So a couple things in what we're trying to do with our and always have with our site and our search is we're trying to present back to the user the targeted results. So I actually did a report on this earlier this week, and many of you have probably over the years received inquiries where someone's just simply saying, they're not really saying much of anything other than what's the total cost? What's the total price, including all the fees? And that's all they ask. And perhaps you respond, you clarify it. It takes your time to respond with that information. And then maybe they ghost you. Maybe they say, okay, great, thanks. And they move on, right? That's all they cared about. It wasn't really a serious inquiry. So I actually saw a 46% drop in the number of inquiries that asked that question. What's the total cost or what's the total price? That over since January. So the inquiries, we've always thought that and believed, and we hear from you that inquiries from your vacationers that inquire on your properties on our platform are very targeted and they provide great guests. And in this case, we're hoping that this means that these inquiries that you are getting are that much more valuable, not tire kickers, if you will. The number of inquiries that vacationers send continues to stay constant. This did not change after the adjustment. So they're sending just over 2 inquiries on average. So there's not a lot of vacationers. I do see vacationers that send 10, 20 inquiries, but that's not common. I think 50% of our vacationers send 1 inquiry. So they're really targeting out your listing, at least initially. And then perhaps if that doesn't work out, they're sending a second inquiry. Or maybe they're sending 2 at a time, 2 inquiries, but really it is limited. Overall, in the search after this change, we've seen increases in searches on the site. We've also seen an increase of the use of the price sort. So again, with better results where all search results are showing the price, the total cost, this is a much more valuable sort right now to sort high to low or low to high. Kind of along those lines there is one filter that vacationers are using, and so 22% of the searches use this max rate. So again, the value of doing just that, of including the total cost, has allowed us to rely on a better results with the max rate, showing all the cost. All right. So good results overall on this, and I would expect as we move into the summer, as I've mentioned before, this summer it does see an uptick. If you're not aware, July is the second busiest behind January in terms of activity on the site, and that is a combination of mostly people looking for last minute summer vacations, but it's also we also start as you get towards the end of July, you start to get fall inquiries as well. So stay tuned for, hopefully, if you have those vacancies, they will continue to see inquiries on those weeks. One other point data point before moving on to Carrie's questions here is this is a fact that I pulled back out. Let me change the slide here. I was looking at this. We've reported on this number for a number of years, but I updated it this week in terms of properties with 7+ reviews are 34% more likely to be fully booked. And I point this out now is because it's June, you're about to get your guests. As you prepare your home for the arrival of those guests, also prepare yourself for how to get those reviews and the importance of them. And I know Carrie is going to touch on this momentarily, but what this was showing was I was seeing a clear distinction that of the listings that had 7 or more reviews, they were fully booked. If you had 0 reviews, only 25% of those properties were fully booked. So there's a clear distinction that as you get to this threshold above 7 reviews, it was having a bigger impact on the results. And it's not to say that there's a direct correlation. So you get 7 reviews and you're going to be fully booked, but it is an indication that the behaviors that are providing that ability to get those reviews are you're providing a great guest experience. You're maintaining the property well, communicating effectively. Overall, you're meeting the guest experience. When you do those things, the reviews do come in, and they come in a positive way. That's what vacationers are looking for. If they see 1, 2 positive reviews, maybe there's just not enough of a trend, not enough to suffice their trust in that listing. And so, we say every year, get 1 or 2 reviews. If you can get more than that and get 3, 4 reviews, you're going to be in good shape. And I think vacationers are definitely looking for recency reviews. It's not to say that if you're sitting there with 7 reviews and they're all back prior to 2020, well, you're still going to raise some questions. So stay on your guess, and again, I'll leave that to Carrie in a moment. All right, and then the last thing that I have is just a note as we talk about the things that you can do for filling your vacancies. There's also what we can do, what WeNeedaVacation is doing. So we're always trying to drive our demand. I always like to touch upon this to let you know that we're continuing to work on your behalf to drive that traffic to your site. Our marketing efforts touch upon all the common digital marketing areas. And the one area here that is really a game changer is everybody, unless you've been living under a rock, hears AI about every minute about what's changing. And so, we're very focused right now on AI search and other aspects of AI, but AI search, we've been front of the game for SEO over the lifetime of our business. AI is just another form that we're getting deeply involved in. It's changing at a rapid pace, and it's too much information to go through for today. I think this is something for post summer we will wrap up, and it's more of a teaser for everyone to come back and attend, and we'll talk more about the future of our platform and how AI is reshaping that a little bit. Um, because AI is not just going to impact our platform and how people search for us and how we utilize it, but AI could have an impact on how vacationers search and find your home. The good news is that we've found in the SEO world and in our is that we have a great foundation. We've been around for 30 years. We have strength in our SEO already that it leads to be found via AI already. And so we're in a good position to continue being at the forefront of Cape and Islands related searches. So with that, I'm going to turn and direct more specific questions from Carrie.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jim. Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Hillman, and I've been on the WeNeedaVacation homeowner support team for about 5 years now, and renting my own vacation rental houses for about 10. So today I'm just going to get into a couple questions that came in during the registration process. There's a little, you can put a comment and ask a question. So I kind of pulled a bunch of those questions together. To go over a few things today. So I'm going to do my best to address those questions. And then if other questions came in that were more specific to your own individual listing or business situation, these may require more kind of in-depth look with you, a one-on-one call or email. And so we'll follow up with you after the meeting, or if you want to send an email to support@weneedavacation.com. Feel free to do that with any specific questions that are about your specific listing. But today we're going to keep the discussion focused on what Jim was talking about, the current vacation rental market across the Cape and Islands, the traveler demand, pricing, availability, booking trends, and that kind of stuff. So the first question I'm going to go over, and we can go to the next slide. Yep, thanks, Jim. Would be how can I fill my remaining summer weeks? So this question came to us in a number of different forms, but basically a lot of owners are still looking to fill in those remaining summer weeks that are stubbornly not getting booked yet. So what I recommend is first look at your pricing for whatever weeks you have remaining. So start there, just look at your calendar, see what the pricing is, and really consider lowering your pricing, lowering your rate to make it more attractive to the last minute vacationers. So, Jim was talking about how in July we still see last minute bookings coming in. So make sure that, you don't give up yet. You can still get those weeks booked potentially, but just drop your pricing down to what you're comfortable with and see if that will get you some more inquiries. And what you can do to figure out how much to drop your price, you can search and compare your prices to your competition. So you might want to do a search on our site to see how many homes are left in your town for that specific week that you have available. And you can search for specifically homes that have the same number of bedrooms as you, or you can look at the map function and see which ones are close to the water or, different specifics. But look at your competition. This is what the vacationers are looking at. So you really want to see, you want to compare your price, of course, but also compare your listing. See what the vacationers are seeing and what's catching their eye with the different listings. So Jim also talked about the last 2 weeks of August. So if you still have those available, you are probably not alone. These, as Jim mentioned, are the most challenging of the high season weeks to book. So kids are going back to school. It's even a little bit earlier this year than it has been in other years. Some places are going back as soon as August 12th. So when you're initially pricing out your summer season, you actually want to have those last 2 weeks of August lower from the outset. And you can think about maybe about 10 or 20% lower than the rest of your weeks for the summer season. And when you're when you're setting that price, think about what your total price is going to be. So, right, Jim talked about how with the pricing model, it's taking your rental rate plus your required fees. So add that up and then make sure that you're falling below certain price caps. So a lot of vacationers will say, they'll search for a house under $3,000. So if your rental rate plus your cleaning fee comes in at 3,100, you might be missing out on a bunch of searches that people that are looking for a price cap of 3,000. So just take a look at that, go into your listing. You can click on view this listing, and then you can see exactly how the vacationers are seeing it and how they're seeing the price summary added up. So, try to come in like, if your price is, if people cap it at 4,000, try to come in below 4,000 or below 3,000 or, somewhere along those lines so that you don't miss out on some searches. And another thing you can do to look at getting some last minute inquiries are you can run a last minute alert. And this is in combination with the owner special. So some of you may already be running the owner special, and that's just a blurb that goes on your listing. It's a little short, like one-liner that just is meant to grab the vacationer's attention as they're scrolling through the search results. And then the last minute alert is on top of that. That can increase your inquiries by as much as 50 to 60% sometimes. And what it does is it puts your listing on a special page that talks about last minute deals. And so when a vacationer comes to the We Need a Vacation website, there's a little button they can click on to see last minute deals. And so then your house is going to be listed there, sorted by the week that you have available that you're promoting. So if somebody wants to come the last week of July, they're going to scroll down on the page, look at all the deals that are up for the last week of July, and then sift through those to see what would work for them. So if you have any questions about how to do that, just get in touch with us. We can help you figure that out. And another thing you want to do as you're trying to get more inquiries and assess your listing is look at your pictures. So especially your first picture. So this is what vacationers are looking at as they're scrolling through the search results. That first picture is very important, and it needs to be something that catches their eye and makes your listing stand out from the others. So it doesn't have to be the front of your house. A lot of people default and they put the front of the house first, and then they do what you walk into, the living room, and then the kitchen, and then the bedrooms, and then the backyard. Doesn't have to be in that order. We definitely want to encourage you to put something as that first photo that's going to grab the vacationer's eye and get them to click into your listing. They'll say, oh, wow, that looks like a great hammock or backyard or relaxing space to hang out in. Think about other options that you have in your photos. So maybe you have a nice deck or a lawn, some comfortable seating in the backyard. And the backyard might really speak more to vacationers as this is a space I'm going to hang out in. This is a space I'm going to relax in. And so they want to click into your listing to see the rest of your photos after they see that comfy backyard photo. Or maybe you have a cute little path to a beach or a pond. Anything that makes you stand out from the other listings. Again, it doesn't have to be the front of the house. And also, one little note, make sure the picture is horizontally set up so that it's not a vertical picture. The horizontal photos just work better with our website. And if Jenny's going to grab a random house to promote on social, the photo has to be horizontal. So just make sure it's horizontal. All right, some other things you can do to make sure you get those last few weeks booked up are start by updating your 2027 calendar now. So even though you're not done booking this summer, make sure you get next summer's calendar open because vacationers are already booking for next summer, if you can believe it. I know it seems hard to imagine. We're so focused on this summer, but people are planning for weddings, they're planning for reunions. Maybe they didn't get the house they wanted this year, so they're already looking to next year because they know they're going to come back, or they're going to bring the grandparents next year, so they know they need a bigger house. Whatever the case may be, vacationers are looking and they're booking now. So get that calendar open. Even if you have repeat guests that come in, check with your repeaters, see if they're planning to come back next year. You can block those weeks off. If they're not sure or they, you're not comfortable with asking them yet, you can give them first right of refusal when you get an inquiry on that week. Um, Okay, and then after doing all these things, if you're still having problems or you have a specific question or you just want to talk to us and try to, hammer out some ideas, definitely give us a call at the We Need a Vacation office or email us at support@weneedavacation.com. And we'd be happy to pull up your listing and look specifically at your listing and the details so that we can help you figure out how to get those weeks booked. Okay, and on to the next question. If you could advance the slide, thank you. So this is kind of the next step. You're going to work on getting your summer booked, and then then comes the fall. So a lot of people were asking, how can I attract more fall bookings? Because it is so different than the summer bookings. There's just so much demand during the summer on the Cape and the islands. The fall is a little more challenging to book because there's just not as much vacationer demand. So we all, as owners, know the benefits of vacationing on the Cape in September and into October even. It's less crowded. A lot of times we still have really nice warm weather. There's much less traffic. But even with these benefits, there's still not nearly as much demand in the summer. So as owners, we have to work harder to get those fall weeks or weekends booked. So the biggest hurdle to get over is that you want to stand out from your competition. So as I mentioned before, with that first picture and with your other photos and your whole listing in general, just make sure that your listing is optimized and it's looking as good as possible. Your photos are looking as good as possible because you really have to stand out from the competition if you're trying to book fall weeks. You will want to consider reducing your minimum night stay to maybe 2 to 3 night minimum in the off season. And this can really help you fill up for some weekends. Not everybody wants to book a 7 night stay. But what you can do is you can incentivize them to still book the 7 night stay by giving them a deep discount if they book 7 nights. So maybe your nightly rate for 2 to 3 nights is a little bit higher, and then your nightly rate for a 7 night stay is going to drop down, and the vacationer is going to see, oh, wow, if I book a whole week, I can get a pretty good discount. So, but you would still be making the money on booking out 7 nights. So, if you need help with that, help figuring out those numbers, definitely give us a call and we can help you. But that can be one way to get people to book in the fall. And then if you are doing a 2 to 3 night stay, you can advertise that in your owner special. And so just, talk about that you have a weekend special or that you have weekends available or shorter stays are available, something like that. And that can be listed out in your owner special to put some attention on that. You'll also want to look for any local events that are in your area. So, for example, like Oyster Fest in Wellfleet is in the middle of October. So that's a great one you can put that in your owner special. You can say, special discount for Oyster Fest attendees or whatever, fifth night is free or something like that to try to incentivize them to book with you for those specific things that are happening in your area. And so just, get online and search for fun activities that are happening in your area in the fall. You can also look on our website. We have some events listed. Another thing to consider when you're trying to book the fall is larger homes are going to have a harder time booking just because people aren't usually bringing large groups together in the fall. It's usually kind of a quick weekend, single family or just a couple coming down for a long weekend. So look at your competition again and try to price your house accordingly. Even if you are a bigger house, you might consider dropping the price a lot lower. And then when you're comparing yourself to your competition, say you have a 4 bedroom house, you can really look at 3 to 4 bedrooms because 3 bedrooms are still going to be your competition in the off season just because it's all about pricing. You're going to want to tier your pricing throughout the whole fall. So September is going to be a little bit higher, October lower, and then lower as you get into the colder months. You can keep the price up a little bit for the busier weeks like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, things like that. But don't go too crazy because, again, there's just not the demand like there is in the summertime. Okay, so yeah, those are a few tips about how to book out the fall. But again, if you have specific questions, get in touch with us and we can try to help you make sure your listing looks good for the fall. All right, so let's go to the next question here. So Jim talked about how important guest reviews are, and he mentioned that if you have 7 or more guest reviews, you're much more likely to book out your whole summer. So as your guests start arriving, it's super important to get them to leave guest reviews. So some tips to encourage guests to leave a review. So as Jim mentioned, they're important for building trust with a vacationer, and they give your listing a little more credibility. And, these days guests really rely on reviews. I'm not sure I do much purchasing online without looking at reviews. So I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat. And the best way to get these reviews from your guests is to make it as easy as possible for them to leave the review. So you can use the request form that's in your homeowner center. So this sends an email to your guest. So you just go to homeowner center, guest reviews, and you can send that request email to the guest. And then if you've been texting with your guest, like maybe you're more on a texting mode with them, you can also send them a link right in a text message. So to get that link, you're going to go to your listing, view it as a vacationer, and then go down to guest reviews, and you can grab the link from there of where to leave a guest review. And then you can just send them that in a text message, and then they'll have that link right there. And a lot of times I start off by asking them if they're willing to leave a guest review, and then you can follow up and tell them how you're going to send them the guest review link. So first get them to commit, and then tell them, I'll text it to you, or I'm going to email it to this email address so you know it's coming right away. And so you really want to ask for the guest reviews right away, like as soon as possible. Don't wait, don't delay, don't feel like you're bothering them too much. Everyone else in the world is asking for reviews right after you leave their establishment. So I think it's totally fine. And you want to do it while the memories and the like happy feeling of Cape Cod is still fresh in their minds. Maybe they still have sand on their feet, whatever. You want it to be fresh. So you can do it right on the same day as checkout. So maybe you're texting with them at the end of their checkout. They ask a few questions. You let them know what to do. Then they say, okay, we've left. You go in, or your cleaners or your property manager goes in and checks the house. You send them a quick message again that says, thanks so much for taking great care of our home while you were there. You left the place really clean. We really appreciate that. Your security deposit is going to be in the mail, or I'll be sending it back via Venmo, or you can ask them how they want the security deposit returned. And then you can ask them for the guest review right there. And a lot of times they'll just write it while they're, riding home in the car on the way home from their trip. So most reviews come in within a couple of weeks of the guest departure. We do have a 90-day policy where the reviews have to come in within 90 days of the vacation. And so just asking them right away is the best way to get them to write one. Okay, great. So we'll move on to the last question that I have here. So this is just kind of some last minute tips before the season begins. So these are some things to be thinking about and remembering to do before the summer season really kicks in. So first thing is you want to make sure you get in touch with your vacationers before they arrive. Definitely confirm the dates of arrival and checkout, confirm the check-in time, and confirm your address, the address of the home. If you find the vacationers asking a lot of questions about these things, you can resend them the lease agreement. I know it seems silly to have to confirm the dates, but it has happened where a vacationer shows up on the wrong day, and it definitely causes some big problems. So make sure they know the dates, and then make sure they know the check-in time. Again, your cleaners probably need the full time to do the cleaning. So you don't want vacationers thinking they can arrive before their actual check-in time, unless, of course, you've communicated about early check-in somehow. And be sure to communicate with them if linens are provided or not. That's another sticking point sometimes. You want to make sure that it's very clear if you are not providing linens. and make sure you provide the bed sizes and the number of beds so that they know exactly what they need to bring, or provide a local rental company so that they know what to order from the rental company. You want to, before your guests are arriving, you want to be sure that your service providers are all lined up and that their timing is confirmed. So, especially important is the cleaners, but also, lawn care or trash service. Make sure those are all confirmed and make sure that that information is available in some sort of welcome book or welcome sheet for the vacationers so that they know when to expect trash to be picked up or when the lawn mowers will be there to mow the lawn. And throughout this time, throughout the spring and into their, right before they arrive and right upon their arrival, actually through the vacationer's whole trip, you want to be extremely available to answer any questions that might come up that they have. You don't want to drop the ball on this. Like, it's really important. And again, this kind of leads to the positive guest review as well, is if you're available and communicating, you're going to have much happier guests. You don't want them waiting. If they ask you a question, do you have a pack and play for an infant at the house? You got to answer that right away so that they know what they need to pack and what they don't need to pack. And, these can be small questions or they can be big questions, but, things like how many beach chairs, do you provide beach towels? And then once they arrive at your house, they might ask you how to turn on the TV, or maybe they don't know how to turn on the air conditioning. And definitely sometimes these can seem like annoying questions, and maybe you get the question coming in while you're trying to enjoy your own vacation, but really just get back to those vacationers right away. They need to know how to turn on the AC, and just a couple quick bullet points, you can tell them how to do it, or a quick phone call or FaceTime, you can walk them through it, and then they're going to be much happier rather than if they have to spend a night in your house without the air conditioning turned on. And again, also same thing, if any issues arise during their stay, make sure you're communicating with them and troubleshooting and showing them that you're attentive and you're paying attention. Okay, so that kind of wraps up the questions that came in advance. But if anybody else has questions and they want to unmute, you can go ahead and unmute now and ask questions. And again, we just ask that you kind of keep it to Jim's presentation or what I was talking about with these questions, and anything that's super specific to your listing or your situation or an issue that you run into, definitely get in touch with us afterwards and we'd be happy to help. All right. Anybody
And,
have a question?
and Carrie, just to chime in on after you mentioned the attentiveness, responsiveness of a guest to a guest is the recommendation, the emphasis on being available via text messaging. More and more vacationers rely on text messaging, and if you establish a text message chain with the guest, it's the easiest way to stay in touch with your guests for emergencies, but also just think about the example of your cleaners are done early and they can check in not at 3 o'clock, but at 1 o'clock. Text them on the road. What a way to start the day, start a vacation if they can get into the home early. So establish a text messaging if you're comfortable with that. I think is the best way to communicate with your guests throughout their stay.
Yeah, definitely. And make sure you get that cell phone number in advance, the one that's going to be the best to text with them, so that the day of you're not trying to figure out, well, is this the right number to be texting? You just want to, check in with them in advance and figure out which cell phone you should be texting. Okay, Cynthia, it looks like you've got a question.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I did a lot of renovations in my home. I put in a new kitchen, new furnishings in my living room. So I want to know how much I should increase my rent to. Now, I have guests that have been coming to my house steadily for the past 4 or 5 years, so I don't want to push too much, but I need to kind of raise it a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my question.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say with the repeat guests, just be careful with them, how much you increase it. You could even consider increasing theirs just a little bit. And then the open weeks that you have available, you can look at increasing those a little bit more. you just don't want to surprise your repeat guests with a big increase and then have them decide they don't want to repeat at your house, because those guests are like gold to you. You want to hold on to them as much as you can, as long as they're respectful and they leave the house clean and you're enjoying having them as guests. Hold on to them as much as you can. And if someone gives you pushback, if you increase it by too much and they give you pushback, maybe strike a deal with them. Maybe say, hey, your family leaves the house so clean. Our cleaners, barely have to do anything. So we'd be happy to bring that price back down a little bit for you. But then the prices that aren't repeat, or the weeks that aren't repeat, you can look at increasing those a little bit more. And, I can't tell you offhand without looking at your listing the dollar amount, but we could set up a call, or I can send you an email after, and we can look specifically at your listing to see how much to increase by. But yeah, if anyone is making major upgrades, renovations, adding a pool, adding anything major to your house, it's definitely cause to increase your price a little bit. But, in this rental market, just don't increase it too much, because it's just a delicate balance. You don't want to, suddenly jump way up, even if your costs of, the renovation costs or other general, house maintenance costs everything's probably going up, from your lawn care to your trash pickup to your electric bills. But yeah.
Insurance.
Yeah, insurance. Yes. Oh, yeah. Don't forget about the insurance. So, Cynthia, I'll follow up with you after, and we can take a look at your
Okay.
specific listing and your current prices and see what you're thinking and what makes sense.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah. Anybody else want to unmute and ask a question here? We have a few minutes. Hi,
Sorry,
Lisa. Oh,
this is Lisa. I don't know if there's an echo. I can't speak. I don't know if
yeah, we unfortunately are hearing an echo, Lisa. So maybe, yeah, you might need to follow up with us afterwards. Sorry about that. Anyone else have a quick question the last couple minutes we have?
Hey, this is Sandy. On the calendar that we work with, how do I switch it back to the kind of the yellow boxes that say unavailable status has not been specified yet?
Okay, so that unavailable status is just meant for part of the calendar that you haven't touched or updated yet. But if you're in there and you're updating, you're just going to want to block out dates that you're not planning to rent, and then open up dates that you are planning to rent. The unavailable or unknown status isn't great for vacationers, because it just is unclear. So it's much better if you can just either block or open. And if you're opening, say, summer 2027, then, and you're not sure if you have repeat guests yet, what you can do is either A, get in touch with those repeat guests and find out if they're planning to come back next year, which is, a little early if they haven't even come yet this year. But a lot of people just know they're just going to do it every year, or they already know we're not going to do it. Or if they're not 100%, then you can say, I'll hold that week for you until XYZ date or whatever. And then you're going to either open it up or block it out. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so basically don't worry about it. And even just to put a $0 amount on a week I'm not going to book is probably just as preferable as keeping it in a yellow state.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fine. It's totally fine. If you're not planning to open up a week or rent that week, you can leave it as $0 is fine. Yep.
And then one other quick question. I have a lot of repeat renters coming back. Some have not left me a review. Many are just emailing me directly, and I'm going to ask them for reviews. What's the process on your end so that when the review is submitted, it doesn't come back as we don't show them? Do I just go in and enter those renters manually?
So you can enter like if they left you a review in an email, you can enter that as a homeowner entered review. Or if they're coming back like in July, then you'll want to you'll want to just put their email address in and then you can send them that review request. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, more like if they do go up and send me one, then I know there's been previous seasons where I'll get an email from We Need a Vacation that says, "Hey, we don't show them in the database." So what's happening is it's kind of bypassing the whole platform. Last year, I had, this is my fourth year, so last year I had repeats. Some of them were new reviews, but they processed on my end through an email. And so I think.
Huh.
So I just am looking for the streamlined process,
Okay.
um, so that when they do come through, it's not a disruption on either end.
Right. Okay. Sandy, I'll take a look at your specific listing. What's your property ID number?
37417.
Okay. I'll take a look and see what's going on with the reviews there. I'm not sure I'm following exactly, but I'll figure out
And I
what's
could drop you an
happening.
email. I can drop you an
Yeah.
email too. I thought
Okay.
about that besides.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
thanks. Mhm.
And Gary, I saw this in the chat too. Just it's regarding pulling reviews. Say if you got it on if you have a review on another platform, or if you have a review in an email, you talk about making it as easy as possible. So if you do have an email, let's say from a guest that gave a review, and you don't want to ask them to go write that review again, they just sent you one basically via email. It's just not on the platform. That's where in the chat there's instructions on how to enter it as the homeowner guest review and then send them basically that copy of that guest review verbatim. Sends it to the vacationer to confirm. Did you write this review? And they'll say, "Yep, I wrote that to you in an email." All it is a one click. Make it as easy as possible. The vacationer just has to confirm, "Yes, I wrote this." They click a button that gets sent to them, and that gets posted as a review. So it's
And
definitely a easy one-step process for that recipient, the vacationer.
And then Jim, I'll follow up on that. They do one click to say, yes, this was my review. And then the
Yeah.
next click is to choose a star rating.
Star rating,
So it's
sure.
2 clicks, but
Two clicks.
yeah.
We're trying to make it as easy as possible. And those of you that are concerned about, we didn't touch upon it, but somebody again just asked, there is a 90-day limit on these reviews being entered by vacationers after their stay. The vast majority of reviews have come in after a guest stays. As Carrie said, ask them right away. Most reviews unprompted come in within a week of their stay anyways, a week, 2 weeks. Once you hit that month mark, not only is it's less likely that you'll get it, and it's not as fresh and it's not as trustworthy. So we're not, if anything, adding a time limit only adds a little more urgency to enter these reviews. Yeah, maybe you'll miss somebody that dragged their feet and wanted to write a review a year later. You're going to get many more reviews if you focus on getting those reviews up front, and they're much more trustworthy.
So could I just ask, like, so on that, like, if I have a review from like Airbnb, you're saying I could effectively like copy that and send it kind of through your process, and then it goes back out to the email of the guest, and they approve and re-rate it, and then it'll get onto WeNeedaVacation.
Correct. And when
Okay.
we want, yes, and the
And then
only difference there is we want that verification from the guest. We don't want you entering it and saying they wrote this. How do we know? So we want
Come
that.
on.
We trust every no. I mean, there's
Okay.
too many owners to think that
Got it.
somebody's going to be trying to pull one.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, makes sense.
And
And
Eric,
can
I
ask
would
a
just,
quick- Sorry,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry. I would just say, Eric, before you copy it onto our site, just ask the vacationer if it's okay to do that. Just get their permission before you copy it over. And then they're much more likely to go through that email process with you and confirm it.
Okay, so ask them before, and then they'll get an email from you guys saying here, so they're not caught off guard. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. And then really quickly, this because I'm new to WeNeedaVacation, like so I have ranges of prices. And is the normal protocol that they send a message to us and ask us what the price is for the week? There's nothing automated that I'm missing, right? They just ask you, they identify a week, and then they say how much is the week. So there's an email exchange, or
So if they put in specific dates, they can see the pricing. So if they put a week in, they can see the rental rate, the cleaning fee, and what the taxes are. So they can see all that. But they might still follow up with you and just ask, is this everything? Are there other fees? You know?
Okay. Maybe I've just been getting negotiators, but okay, got it. Okay.
The exception there, Eric, is on the daily rates. There for daily rates, we do not have a granular day-by-day rate. So you enter in, if you accept bookings less than a week, then you might enter in
Yeah.
a daily range. And that's where they'll see
Oh, that's
your
what I'm
daily
doing.
range is
Okay.
$200 to $300, and they're going to ask. But otherwise, the weekly based ones with the updates that I described today should present the guest with a rate.
That clarifies. Yeah, because it's been 3, 4 day rentals and they're asking me
Yeah.
like what is, and I was like, wait a second. It's like, okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's and something just not to go into today, of course, but it's something that we are ongoing discussions about how to streamline that aspect of it, the daily
Yeah, that
rate
would be
over the
great
weekly.
because that's like I have to recalculate and well,
Yeah,
it is
exactly. I mean,
taxes. Yeah, okay.
what we've done for weekly, we want to transfer and do for daily as well.
Got it. Cool.
Thank you so much for joining us. If we didn't answer one of your questions, please follow up. We'll try to get back to you too if it's something showed up in chat that we weren't able to get to. I'm happy to help. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Okay.